Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to All Things Division 3 Soccer with Simple Coach and Jackie. I am, of course, Simple Coach, and Jackie is right there, sleeping away. It's like 9 o'clock at night, and so that's her time. That's her real sleep time. The rest of the sleep time she does during the day is not serious sleep time, but this is now sleep time. So hey, after doing that hefty pro-rel injured time episode, I had to get back to normal. So I decided to put this video together a while back, and I'd been doing bits and pieces of it. And in 2022, 2 years ago, I made a video called "So You Want to Play Division 3 Soccer," and it was basically the recruiting process and how to go about, getting on a Division 3 program. And then last year in January of 2023, I followed up with another video called "You Still Want to Play Division 3 Soccer?" And I kind of dug deeper into certain things around the recruiting process, playing Division 3 and whatnot. And I decided 3 years running, why not? It's February. So I decided to put together this video that I'm calling "Are You Sure You Want to Play Division 3 Soccer?" So I went back and forth about how I was going to do this, how I was going to break it down for y'all. And I decided to let other people do the speaking, but I wanted to talk about four things in particular, and actually, I'll talk about someone else who has a lot more to say. But the first thing I just want to highlight is around money and scholarship expectations. I think it's really important for folks to realize that in Division 3, money is academic, it is not athletic. And so the reality is even if athletic scholarships were permissible at the Division 3 level like they are at Division 1, you have a better chance of getting more academic money than you do athletic scholarship money. So if Division 3 is your avenue to continue your soccer playing career, focus on the academics. Focus on the academic money that you could receive. Right? And that's why when you hear Division 3 coaches talk, the FAFSA is a big deal. Federal application for federal student loans, basically, or academic scholarships. Much bigger deal, and you'll find much more success that way. Second thing I think folks need to realize at the Division 3 level, especially if once you're going in, like, hey, I'm, all these schools want me, so I'm thinking I'm going to have to start playing. This is true, that I'm going to have to start training, and I'm going to have to be ready by August 18th. Highlights one thing, and that's particularly around time commitment. At the Division 3 level now, in particular, especially the more elite clubs or the more elite programs that you see, right? There's really no off season, right? You are either training with the team or you're doing workouts on your own. That's the reality of it. And the moment you don't, you lose ground. And folks, and there are players who will come in and be able to take advantage of the fact that you're not training and they are. There's not as many as at the Division 1 level. There's not as many workouts, but they're keeping track. Coaches are keeping track. And so if you're going into this, August is your start date, be ready for that, right? Because it's a hard thing to get accustomed to, especially in the club atmosphere where you do 3-4 times a week with a game, and then the rest of the time you're not around, right? And your coaches don't know what you're doing. which leads to this other point that I wanted to highlight, which is around academic commitment. That is why you are there. And I will say at the Division III level, in comparison to Division I, but because we talk about Division III here, it's Division III. There is a lot more balance around why you're there, right, and why you're at a particular school playing for at a particular program. You know, if there is conflicts between something academic and your class, or and your soccer practice or whatever, the academics wins. So if there's a class that you have a conflict with, you're expected to go to class, because that's why you're there. And I think you need to keep that really front and center. This is not a soccer journey to make yourself better and you become professional after 4 years. That doesn't work that way. In some cases it does, but not at the Division III level. I would also say from the academic standpoint, but also from the soccer standpoint, there is a level of expectation that you are responsible to your team and to your school. And like it or not, as a student athlete at the Division III level, people are holding you to a higher standard. And then finally, for my bit, two cents worth, the process of getting to August. Make sure you find the right fit, not the right division. Right? And I think that just find the school you like where you're going to be comfortable with. And you'll see next, we talk about the broken leg test, which I find to be absolutely hysterical, right? The school you choose, if you broke your leg, had a career-ending injury, would you be happy with that choice? Would you be content to stay there and finish out your academic career? That's like one of those existential questions that you must ask when you're picking your school, I think. Well, you know, my first two videos and then this first 5-6 minutes of me talking, truth of the matter is, I only know this from my experiences of talking with different coaches. I don't pretend to have it to focus solely on the recruiting process. I let the others to do that. And in particular, I decided to reach out to someone who I consider as a friend who's I've spoken to before. We've done videos together, who knows infinitely more about the recruiting process and about the notion of becoming a student athlete in Division III. I just figured, you know, for this third So You Want to Play Division III Soccer episode, basically, I'd have him back on the channel and let him do the talking. So, to give you some background, Matt Baer is the founder of Discover College Soccer. He's a graduate of Catholic University, and so he lived and breathed playing Division III soccer. I had this conversation that you're about to see was from a few weeks ago, but his perspective on the process and the expectations that you should be aware of are spot on. And you didn't ignore me, my 2 cents, but you ignore him at your own peril, right? Like what your expectation versus the reality could be much different if you don't pay heed to some of the things that Matt has to say. So with that, here is my conversation with Matt Baer, founder of Discover College Soccer, that we recorded a few weeks ago. And I hope you enjoy it, and you'll see me on the back end. Matt, hey, thanks for agreeing to do this, sitting on the hot seat with me on this special episode of, what are the expectations players should have as they go into play Division III soccer. So appreciate it. As always. As always.
Love chatting with you.
Yeah. So I love chatting with myself, believe it or not. Just like, that's why I said I need a therapist. Hey, so I just sort of want to run down some points that I think players just need to be aware of. Maybe even parents too, right? Like, maybe that's the case, right? Like, about their experience once they, I'll say, maybe walking into school, but then also being there, and so I figure maybe we could start with the first thing, which is, can we just sort of clarify money expectations, right? I think there's this not so healthy impression that just because they're a good athlete, they will get athletic money. And in Division Three, there is no such thing as athletic money, but there is academic money. So maybe could you just touch upon that, because you're infinitely wiser about this stuff than I am.
Well, I don't know about that, but yeah, I mean, the big thing everybody needs to realize, no matter what division in soccer we're talking about here, maybe the only exception would be junior colleges, but in terms of D1, 2, 3, and NAIA, no, D3 has no athletic scholarships whatsoever. But 1, 2, and NAIA have limited scholarships. It's not football where there's 85 guys and they all get a full ride for football. It is an equivalency sport, which means not a head count sport. So like basketball, right? There's 15 guys on a roster and all of them have everything taken care of. That's not the case for soccer. So no matter what division you want to play in, academics has a much, much, much larger opportunity to save you money than athletics. Because you look at, I think Division One women's soccer has a max of 14 scholarships. A roster size on average will be 28 to 32. We'll just call it 28 so the math works. That means everybody's on a half on average, right? So, of course, yes, that means they could give a full ride to somebody, but it means somebody else is getting nothing. And so that it's so rare for that. And so now you might go to school for free because you got a 4.0 and a 1400 SAT, and they're going to give you half academic money, and you can get half athletic money, and if that school stacks, you're looking good. And I think that is the path most folks should look at. But when we specifically are talking Division III, they know that they are not going to compete on athletic money because they don't have it. Mm-hmm. But they have very generous academic scholarships, as well as we'll just call them other scholarships. I mean, when I went to Catholic U many, many, many moons ago, I had a couple different scholarships I got, but one was just called an admissions scholarship. It was just the admissions department wanted to give me what I needed to get over the line to go to school there. It was a couple $1,000, but hey, it's a couple $1,000.
Yeah.
But a lot of schools now have, you can go to their website, and a lot of them just have a chart. If you have this grade and this test score, we'll give you this much right off the top. And that's just the minimum. There's departmental scholarships or scholarships for certain majors, all that stuff. So when it's all said and done, if you look at just sticker price of most Division threes compared to your Division 1, Division 2, most Division 3s will skew a little higher. We're not talking about the Ivies or some of the crazy stuff, or super private ones that are going to be high price. Your Division 3s are generally going to be higher sticker price, but you got to do the math of everything when it trickles down, because there is the chance that you can find a Division 3 where at the end of the day you will pay less than the Division 1, Division 2 with some athletic money So you just really have to do the math and talk to each school, really look at it and see what makes the most sense.
Yeah. The it's interesting that you say that because simple player number two, when he was looking at schools, he looked at a Division 1 public and then a Division 3 privates, and when all was said and done, it was basically a wash financially. Like there was no, we were going to pay the same no matter where he went, and it was all academic, right? Because the Division 1 wasn't something he wanted to play at that level, and so it was basically just his academic scholarships and what the state gave and all. It's all the same. It ended up being you're paying X dollars a semester, no matter where you go.
And
That's what
and
it
that's
seemed
what
like. Right.
and that's what it was for me. I was choosing between Virginia Tech as an out of state student and Catholic U, and with I was originally going to Tech, and I was like preferred walk on status or whatever, so I wasn't getting any money from Virginia Tech for soccer. But with the academics and the different aids, it was going to be this amount, and then Catholic then came through with that extra admission scholarship,
Yeah.
and it made it cheaper than going to, because I already had my academic money from Catholic, which was very good, and they offered more academic money than Tech did, and then the admission scholarship made it cheaper, and I said, you know what, I'd rather be in DC, I'd rather pay less, and I'd rather know that I can play for 4 years than commit so many hours and everything that Division 1 would, and it was 100% the right choice for me. I'm not saying that's the right choice for everybody, but for me, wouldn't have done it any differently.
Yeah. Well, I think also it's like I mean we talk about this and endlessly about stuff like this. Like you also have to be realistic as a player, right? Like I think that's the really important thing. You got to like not all of us could aspire to be professional ball players making a lot of money, right? Like it's there that route is very full of boulders and not such an easy way for those players who are not the elite of the 50 guys, 100 guys in the country that everybody knows because they're that good, right? I think and if you have that expectation, well then, right, like your Catholic experience was probably awesome, right? It was just awesome. But you also knew that after that, I'm not going to play super professional to make a huge living and, drive fancy cars, right? I think that's a reality that I think a lot of players need to understand. So,
Absolutely.
Okay, so I just want to jump in and again, just based on your conversations with all coaches and sort of your insight into this sort of thing. So, one of the things I just wanted to talk about that the players need to be very aware of was when they do go to school, they do go to play. They're in a program. They're part of a team. This idea that there is really no off season, right? Like, yeah, they play their fall season. There's going to be a sort of not so subtle suggestion to work out when there's right to hit the weight room, and they're not tracking, but they are tracking, right? Like they know, coaches know, coaching staffs know, and then there's obviously the spring practices. So you're pretty much committing. You're committing to 12 months a year where you are fully committed to that sport, right? To soccer. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, the interesting thing is going to be over the next year or two whether the NCAA makes the change that a lot of people have been pushing for in making the soccer season kind of two segments, right? Playing fall and spring so that they're not cramming 20 games into like 2 months, and is just spreading it out and allowing for more of a traditional 10-month season almost. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think each division has specific rules about how much you can practice, how many competition days you can have in that off season. But there are very hard restrictions, especially on Division III with that off season. What you can do as a team and when the coach can be there. But like you said, there's expectations of what you're doing on your own and that sort of thing. You can have more hours at the other divisions and whatnot. But I will also say the good thing about Division III, and this is now I'm going to preface this with everything that we're talking about is very much on the average. There will be outliers in either direction of anything we say, but there are schools out there that Division III schools where they're perfectly fine with you having an internship in the spring semester or studying abroad even, and which means you're not going to be training with the team. You're going to be abroad, but that's not means you're going to lose your spot. Now, if you go abroad and don't do the necessary things you need to do while you're gone, you might have struggle coming back. But I know students who that's high on their list. They want to study abroad. Okay, well, that makes sure you're asking that question during the recruitment process, because some schools that's no problem, and other schools, you might have those top 25 programs who they treat it like a D1, and if you don't want to do that, then maybe that's not where you should go, even though they're a D3. They just have the commitment expectations of a D1 or a top D2, but the greatest thing about D3 is the fact that they, you might miss practices for class, and that's okay. And the academics is the key component. I mean, again, going back to the last question, when I was potentially going to Virginia Tech, my name was in a thing, I forget what they called it, like free time or something, but it just meant soccer practices were from 11 to 1, which means I would not get classes scheduled between 11 and 1 no matter what. And that was just the way they did it. But, when you're to D3, you might have a night class that's just 6 to 9. It's only offered once a week, and guess what? Practice is at 6. Well, you're going to class. That's just the way it is. And that's both fall and spring. But the commitment level, it's no longer just hey, it's fun, we're going to go out for a couple months and practice and play. It's not college club soccer. Division III soccer is legit. I mean, you're working hard. You're in the weight room. You're training. You might have small group training. You might have extra sessions or things that you're doing on your own, in season and out of season. But you also most likely will have some flexibility depending on the school you're at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of responsibility, one of the other things that I think guys going into a program that I don't think you necessarily see it so much unless they play high school ball, maybe, where they have a responsibility to not only their teammates, but they have responsibilities to their coaches and the school they represent to be be a certain way, behave a certain way, all of those things. I don't mean that as a bad thing. I just mean I often wonder if kids going into their freshman year realize there is this, you're being brought into a group of guys who are being held to a standard, and it's quite honestly, a lot of times it is a lot higher standard than what is expected of your regular students.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you hear it, I hear it all the time in my interviews, when we ask what coaches are looking for when they're recruiting a player, the off the field stuff tends to trump the on the field stuff, because the on the field stuff's easy. I can watch you play. You're a good player. That's like table stakes, right? That's the bare minimum. Now it's, how do you react when things aren't going your way? Coach benches you for something. How do you talk to the referees, your parents, other teammates, the other team? And coaches are watching all that. And because they don't want, a lot of them, they have the no knucklehead rule, right? They're not going to recruit anybody that is going to make their program look unfavorable to
Yeah.
other players, other teams within the school, teachers. The old adage, the name on the front is more important than the name on the back, very much holds true, and they want to recruit players who fit that ethos.
Yeah. I think too, like, just maybe it's again, I'm sure people know, but have to be told, to be reminded that there's a lot at stake for these guys and ladies who run these programs, right? It's their livelihood. It is, and the last thing they're going to do is upset the apple cart by bringing in somebody who is going to be a problem for them, whether it's a problem in the locker room, whether it's a problem in the classroom. They turn out to be huge partiers and gain a reputation. Like, there's too much at stake for these folks, and especially talk a lot about team culture and things like that when I talk to coaches. Like, I think that's a big deal, right? Like, that is a big deal. Like, they want a positive environment for their athletes, and they don't just want somebody to come in and ruin it, because it takes years to build a really great team culture, and it takes one guy to destroy it all, right? I think that's the reality.
And a lot of times, some of these either college athletic directors, college presidents at the D3 level, they're way more concerned with graduation rate, team GPA, and just the behavior and that of the team than they are the wins and loss record. Yeah. I've seen many a Division III program where coach has been there 10, 15, 20 years and had 2-3 winning seasons.
Yeah.
But it's not always about the wins and losses at the Division III level. It is very much, they take into account everything else. So
lastly, let me just say, is there anything you think that players need to be aware of going into playing for a college team? Is there anything else that you would throw in there that somebody should be like, oh, I didn't think about?
This whole process is tough, right? I mean, I was just earlier today was interviewing a Division III men's program, a Final Four Division III men's program, and that they've had continued success for the last several years, and it's January and they're still locking down their recruiting class for this upcoming fall, which you would think, okay, Final Four team, they're probably locked and loaded, know exactly what's going on, but it's crazy that there's still a very big, almost a Division I or bust mentality out there. And guys who, I'm saying guys because it was a guys team I was talking to. It was a girls, a little different, but I'll focus on the guys for the moment. And once they figure out, oh, I'm not going to go play at this Division I school, then they start scrambling for Division IIIs and other places they can play. So these Division III schools are on a later timeline, and it's hard. But you don't want to be that person who puts all their eggs in the one basket and it doesn't come through, and the D3s that would be a perfect fit for you, that you would have an amazing experience at, that you might challenge for a national championship at, are locked and loaded and you've been shut out. So, really do your research, find your right fit from an academic perspective, a soccer perspective, a social perspective. Folks always talk about the broken leg test. If soccer went away, would you still enjoy going to school there? Really look at all of those things.
Broken
And
leg test. Is that, yeah, that's,
yeah, like if you have a career-ending injury, you
yeah.
know, broken leg test is better than the career-ending injury test. Um,
Yeah. 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 He can
so like,
recover from one.
right, so like, would you still want to go there if soccer
Yeah.
wasn't a part of
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
And you really got to look at those things. And like I said, the timelines are strange. Girls, you know, I saw the numbers the other day. It's like there are 800 verbal commits for the class of 25 for D1s right now. It's been 6 months since coaches can talk to you. Like, come on. Um,
Wow.
so it's,
There's something a little shady there, but whatever. Yeah.
it's just the girls
But it's
start
the
way
girls. The
earlier.
girls.
It's
So
just it's
I know of a girl who committed to a Division One program her freshman year in high school. She was really, really good player. Don't get me wrong, and she committed to
yeah.
going. And yeah, that's
I've heard of
absurd to
those
me. But
too, but I mean,
yeah,
you can't sign anything till senior year, so verbals,
right, right,
it's like,
right.
okay, well,
Yeah,
does that coach even exist at that school in 3 years? Who
yeah,
knows,
yeah,
especially these days. But I people got to just look at all your options, do your research, and 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 find the right fit. And nothing wrong with shooting for Division One if that's what you think where you belong and what you think you're a fit. But don't discount Division Three because it's a great place to play. It's a
yeah.
great atmosphere. I again wouldn't change my Division Three experience for the world. We've got the most when you look at the Discover College Soccer podcast. The most coaches we've interviewed are Division Three, so I'm a
Mm.
big believer in it, and um, we'll have
And I will say, if you
more to
watch
come.
the games as much as I do, the quality is outrageous. Like it is, man. I know you were a good ball player, but some of these kids are like really good, like off the charts, just different level type players who could play Division One if they wanted to or gave them an opportunity. They're that capable. I mean, I
Absolutely.
can you can just go down the list of the top players in Division Three and be like, they're Division One players. They're just playing where they're comfortable. So,
Yeah, 100%.
yeah. All right, Matt, sir. Thank you very much. I will post links wherever. Discover College Soccer, prob.com, probably the best resource for the recruiting process out there. And love having you on the channel.
Yeah, love being here, and remember, your viewers get a discount to be part of the study table.
Yes,
So we'll
I'm
have to make
still
sure we
pining.
put
I'm
that in
still
there.
pining for the hat.
I know, man.
You posted on Twitter like I'm wearing a hat at some tournament. And I was like, grr, I got to do that again, which brought
I,
me the idea. Like, oh, I got
I
to have you
was
back on.
this past weekend. I was down at the RL showcase in Sanford and ran into. It was cool because we had, I think, I counted about 50 coaches at games for my daughter's team, and I think I had interviewed at least 5 of them already. So it was fun to see folks in person, and we'll hopefully try to rustle up those other 45 that haven't been
Yeah.
interviewed yet and get them on the pod. So.
Was that for your daughter?
Yeah,
No? Oh, yeah.
she's an '08, but she played up with the '07s
Oh,
for the
nice.
tournament. They needed some help, so she
All right.
she got some extra games in, which was fun.
Nice. All right. All right, Matt. Thanks. Have a great
Yep.
day.
Thank you. Take
All
care,
right.
Paul.
See ya. Bye.
Bye bye.
So that was my conversation with Matt Baer, founder of DiscoverCollegeSoccer.com. If it's not obvious, he knows more about the recruiting process and playing in college than probably most anybody, and he's more than willing to share what he knows. Just remember, right? Like as you're going through, if you're thinking about playing college soccer, right? Things to just keep in mind: your money expectations. You have a greater chance of getting money through your academics than through your athletics. And in Division Three, that is particularly the case because there is no athletic money. Remember that as a ball player, you have to commit time, and you have to have a serious level of commitment because it's no longer the days of like club soccer. Hey, let's have fun and enjoy. These programs are pretty serious, and all the interviews I've done, all the interviews that Matt has done, clearly indicates that. And you're going to programs that put as much intensity and commitment as any other school out there. And I think you definitely need to be aware of that. You know, if you're going for, if you're going to school, if that's the path you've chosen and you want to play, just remember, right? Like, and I'm sure I don't have to tell you this, academics is your priority, and more so in Division 3. There is no reprieve. You don't get any special dispensations for academics, right? That is the priority. And in fact, at times, if there's conflict, academics is going to definitely rule the roost. And I would say, and this was even true back in my day, once you get a spot and you're part of a program, you are invariably held to a higher standard, both on campus and the community. And I think it's something that it's a responsibility that you have to take very seriously. None of the coaches, they put so much effort into things like culture and team building, and right, so that they could develop young men and women who are proud representatives of the schools and the programs that they represent, and that is taken very, very seriously. And then lastly, my favorite, the broken leg test. If you're going to school and you're going to play and you break your leg and have a career-ending injury, is that a school that you want to stay at academically? Right? I think you need to really consider that, right? Because ultimately that should be your priority, right? Like, soccer should be joyful, and your college experience should be meaningful. So, yeah. So with that, again, thanks to Matt Baer. Just a couple comments about him there. Like I said, founder of DiscoverCollegeSoccer.com. He is a self-service model, right? So if you sign up, become a member, um, uh, you're going to have access to a course from start to finish on the recruiting process. There's going to be, I mean, I've seen them, email templates. There is different, like a cadence. Hey, when should you contact? What should you say? These sort of things. Really, really laid out for you, pretty straightforward. The cost of the registration to become a member on DiscoverCollegeSoccer.com is pennies, considering there's one thing that you get that is trumps all else, and that is a spreadsheet that has every college program, every college coach, their contact information, as a starting point, right? And I think that's very well worth it, and you can actually see and dive into the schools that might be of interest. So I saw that as well. Matt showed it to me, and it's like the amount of effort to put something like that together, and here you have it at your fingertips, is absolutely fantastic. And then lastly, I'll just say you've just become part of a bigger community of folks who are trying to make their way through the college recruiting process, and the knowledge that you could share amongst the members is fantastic. And like I said, Matt makes himself accessible to people, so I'm sure he's more than willing to even provide more insights for you. So with that, if you go to DiscoverCollegeSoccer.com and you sign up and use the code SIMPLE, you will receive a 20% discount. And in full disclosure, the only thing I'm getting if 10 people register is I will get a famous DiscoverCollegeSoccer.com hat, and you will get all the tools necessary to run through a successful recruiting process to land at the school and play soccer at the school that is your top choice. So, with that, Jackie's sort of, doing her thing. She's a little awake today. Been out like 17 times in the last 2 hours. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was meaningful. Again, don't necessarily take my insights to it. Take Matt's. He's knee deep in this stuff. But feel free to email me, or I will pass on whatever knowledge that I have. There are some great Division III soccer programs. All the ones that I've dealt with are just fantastic. Some great coaches with some incredible programs that you're not shortchanging yourself by going Division III. So with that, thank you kindly, and hopefully we will talk soon. Right, Jackie?